Trigger warning. This podcast contains discussions about abuse, domestic violence, and intimate partner violence. Listener discretion is advised.
What you are about to hear is a true story. My story. This podcast is about me, my abusive marriage, my fight for my life, and eventual daring escape from my ex-husband and his enabling family. My name is Bebe, and I am the authenticity warrior. My discernment about what I am facing has made me a target, but I must nonetheless speak up. Hello everybody, it's Bebe, the authenticity warrior, and I'm back. And this time I have a special guest. I have my younger sister here. Some of you may have heard me refer to her from time to time. She's Lulu. That's the person we've been talking about. When I say Lulu, that's who I mean. She's my younger sister and we're very close. You know, as I've been recording, I just figured, you know what, I do want to hear from other people who have had some contact or close contact with myself, with the relationship that I had with Paulinus, because I want to hear from them. And, you know, of course, by the time this whole thing went down, where I literally had to escape for my life, my safety, my children. These are the people that got a front row seats to everything. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I brought her here. And, you know, some of what it is she'll be saying, I'll probably be hearing about them for the very first time. But I think it's important that she's here to also help you guys as well paint a more cohesive picture about all the things that I've been talking about. So thank you, Lulu, for coming.
Hi, Bebe. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, thank you for agreeing to do this. It's not easy. As much as I bore the brunt of everything that I went through in my relationship with Paulinus, it's been very apparent to me that I'm just number one, but other people as well have had to kind of suffer directly or even indirectly in just even seeing me maneuver all of this. Yeah. So, and you are definitely one of those people. And so that's why I'm glad that you're here. So thank you again, Lulu.
No problem at all. I'm happy to lend my voice and my perspective on the things that I have witnessed in the course of that relationship. So I'm just happy to be here to support you.
Yeah, thank you. So, I think for me, the thing that I'm most curious about, Lulu, is I guess emotionally, because I remember when I had that first conversation with you, when I told you that I've been abused, I'm being abused in the relationship that I'm in. Like, how was that for you to hear? How was it really?
It was a shock. It was a complete shock. I never imagined that would have been going on in your relationship or that you had been enduring that. So it was heavy. It was a lot, but I think of course I believed you, but like, I was just shocked that, oh my God, this is what has been going on. Mm-hmm. So, and not knowing about it for so long, because, not knowing about it for so long. And at the point that I was finally becoming aware of it, it was just, how long? You know what I mean?
I know. I understand what you mean, because again, you've essentially known this relationship for the last almost 10 years.
Yeah, right from the very beginning, right from when you met, from when you were dating, to the whole process. And I even remember like big moments, like I believe the engagement was on a birthday of mine.
Yeah.
There was that as well. Doing the engagement photo shoot the following year was also around another birthday.
It was on your birthday again too. Yeah.
So, I had been witnessed and I had had a close view, throughout those timelines. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But there's something that you said in one of the conversations we've been having, offline, is that as much as everything was a shock to you, and as much as you're just like, damn, I didn't know you were going through all of this, there's something you said, you were just like, but now like certain things now make sense now.
Exactly. Yes. So again, as I mentioned, having a close view of the relationship, there have been times where I've hung out with you guys, with you and Paulinus. Mm-hmm. And so things would happen. Like if I can go in and like
Yeah, sure.
give an example of a time, but I remember one that really stood out to me was around when you were even about to get married. The civil registry portion.
Oh,
of
yeah.
that.
I remember that day. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And so it was just me that had gone along with you guys. It was just a formality, just the quick signing of the documents. I was there to take pictures and the ceremony happened. It was uneventful. We did that. And it was actually when we were leaving. So you and I had driven together.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, yeah. Okay. So I think, let me try and paint the scenario. So myself and Paulinus, right? This was about a week to the wedding. I think we had gone to go do the local government stuff, where you get the actual marriage certificate and you sign this and sign that. And they too also conduct their own ceremony. But it was just myself and Paulinus, and then my sister Lulu accompanied us. The family didn't even go. Like there was no fuss around the whole thing.
Yeah.
So we did all of that. We completed the ceremony there. And we were done. And I think we were headed out. We were headed back home. In fact, we were headed to go, I think we're still handing, I know we still had at least one more errand to run. So you and I were even kind of in a rush and we're heading somewhere.
Yeah.
And then I guess, what did you then?
So from then on,
witness?
by this time, we were already like at the car, you and I, we were saying our goodbyes. And in the course of saying goodbye, maybe you had gone for a hug or you had lifted your arm or something. He then suddenly pointed out the fact that you had armpit hair, like you had
Like my armpits were like a bit overgrown.
Basically.
I wouldn't even say overgrown. They were just like, they were not like clean shaven. There was like some hair, obvious hair under my armpits, right?
And I just remember like his reaction to that. Like he didn't even code it or anything. He just started like shouting basically.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Look at your armpits. Da, da, da. I don't remember his exact like phrasing the words, but I remember what stood out to me was like, when I tell you to do something, you do it. And I was like, whoa, that shocked me. Like,
yeah.
And I remember looking at your face and, you were just trying to pacify him. You looked a little bit embarrassed, but in my head, I was just like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like seeing the temper over something so minor, and then the phrase of when I tell you to do something, you do it. Like, huh?
As you're saying it now, I just realized how shocking that must have been for you because, I'm your older sister, right?
Exactly.
So like, I don't think you've ever really seen me being like, spoken to like that before.
Like by somebody that's not maybe like parents or like, actual authority figures.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was shocking to me.
It was shocking. I actually remember that day. And when like you bringing it up, I remember like the emotions, the feeling, because again, you were cuckoo on ground. So you saw how crazy everything had been gearing up towards the wedding. I think I even felt sick, just the stress of it all. Like I was still just recovering. And then okay, fine. Maybe I hadn't shaved my armpits in like a couple weeks or whatever. But the wedding is cuckoo next week. It's something that I would have gotten to anyways. Exactly. It really wasn't that big of a deal, right? So I remember his reaction. And I remember just freezing. Because now, the times where he would shout and rage at me and just speak to me in a very demeaning manner, oftentimes other people aren't there.
Right.
Or at least up until the point prior to marriage, other people wouldn't be there. It would just be when it's just he and I. Sometimes I would have done something to him in public, but he won't say anything there.
Wow.
He will wait to when maybe where we get, as soon as, sometimes he will not even wait for us to get home. As soon as we're just in the car together, he would just lay into me and just like rage out and all of that. But this was like one of the first times where it's like he couldn't control himself, or maybe he got so used to you being around us that he completely forgot that, it's not just he and I, you were actually there. And he just reacted like that instantly and, was raging at me right there in public, for you to see. And so I remember freezing. I remember kind of just like clenching my fists and just, my gosh, I hope he doesn't rage more. And he went on and on and on, and then he stopped. and we just kind of said our goodbyes. As embarrassing as that was, in my head, I was like, oh, thank God it wasn't as bad as I know he could have done it, because I've witnessed even more intense rage fests from this man. So as much as, you know, my own threshold had already been slacked. So, but for you were just like, my gosh, what kind of rubbish is this? In my heart, I was just like, thank God it's not as bad as he could have possibly done it. So it's funny you bring up that incident, because again, this was like a week to the wedding. You know, some of the things that I try not to kick myself up about is the multiple red flags that were apparent before marrying this guy. You know, I've spoken about how this guy was literally choking me, that I thought I was going to die. Like, he strangled me, for God's sake. This was about 6 weeks to the wedding. This is a week to the wedding now. And okay, just because there's a bit of armpit hair, the guy was having a full-on rage fest and like, I tell you to do something, you do it, and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, it was so embarrassing, that kind of thing. It's funny, the things that one would tolerate, I don't even know, just because you love someone. And that for me has often been the most hurtful thing about all of this, is this guy took the love that I had for him and just made a complete mess of it. He just ridiculed it. He ridiculed me and just mishandled. And he just, I don't even know the words to describe, but he took advantage of the fact that I loved him. And rather than treasure it, rather than hold it in high esteem, he took a massive dump on it and was just like, F you and your love. And that's part of what has just been so hurtful about everything. And that's part of what I'm working through, just letting go of just the pain that, my gosh, I loved someone and they just treated me in this manner. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm really sorry for everything that you had to endure. You absolutely did not deserve any of that. And it speaks to the quality of the person that he is. Basically. It's not on you. This is him. This is his shame.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for saying it. I try and remind myself about it every day. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that kind of answers the question in a sense that, like, you were in shock, right? Yes. But there were certain things that you had witnessed that, oh my gosh, this makes sense now.
Yes. So like what was missing from all of those, from like the scenario we just explained now and others, there was just never any context. I didn't know what to make of it. It'll be like, this is weird, but I had no way to make sense of it. But once you came out with your story and said that, it was like a light bulb moment. That was what was going on.
Yeah. So like the puzzle finally made sense. The puzzle. Yeah, I get that. And I wish I was speaking up sooner. And I think subconsciously a part of me knew that there's just no way I'll be saying these things and people would not red flag this relationship. But I believed in the relationship so much. I believed in this guy so much. I wasn't ready to have other people tear it down.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think I worked overtime to cover it up and to patch all the holes and to try and, despite his best efforts to embarrass me and do things like that publicly, I would be covering things up. Like I told you, when the guy was raging, like, you didn't see me. I was very still. I think I was even pacifying him. I was like, okay, it's okay. Sorry. You know, that kind of thing, you know, just so that things won't escalate, get out of control. And then it wouldn't be raising blaring red flags to people that loved me and be like, girl,
you have to get out.
Yeah, you have to get out. Something is not okay here. Yeah. Yeah. So I think for me, the next thing I really do want to even explore now is, because I've spoken to you offline about this, and I think some of the things that has been most hurtful for you is just the general behavior and disposition from his family in handling my escape, in handling my separation from this guy. They've almost tried to paint me like I'm some sort of liar. They've tried to paint me like I did something wrong here by leaving and saving my life and saving my children. They've tried to antagonize me in a way that is completely unnecessary. And I know that that's something that has been that has kind of just been an annoying thing for you. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, for me, their entire behavior just shows that they never really had any real regard or love for you. You were basically just a pawn to them, because you wouldn't behave like this if this is somebody that you guys truly loved and cared for, like and saw as one of your own, as one of you, right? Their position has just been basically to lock off and to stand all hands together. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's like they're not even receptive. And
they do the whole I'm going to stick beside him to the max.
Exactly. And I'm a stick beside him is what they're giving. For me, what has been most disappointing, that element, you can say maybe that's even to be expected, but it's just like the women in their family, like that claim to be feminists in 2022. And it's, well, here's your chance to really prove it. You really don't believe women. You don't actually care, because you have not even tried to see it from any other perspective whatsoever. Their behavior, and these are people that have known you, the women specifically have known you just about the same length as the whole time you've been in that relationship. For the last 10 years, they've grown close to you. Like, they've not even tried to reconcile the person that they knew you to be. Like, they're not even considering that this is somebody, let me just even see if there's an element of truth. They haven't tried to be objective in any kind of way or to see it from your own side. I'm just shocked and disappointed, because they've been actively working against you.
Yeah. And by just put things out there, by actively working against me, what my sister is referring to is the fact that these people have been taking a stand in court to try and paint me as, number one, an absentee mother. They've been trying to paint me as someone that was not there and present for my children. They're trying to paint me as immoral, saying that, I'm an atheist, I'm a member of the LGBTQ community. What else? I'm a bra-burning feminist. And for those reasons, they are agitating that my children be taken away from me. And as much as I know that Paulinus does not have sense and can never have sense in this life, the guy has been cursed. Is just what it is. And his father, birds of the same feather, I have nothing to say to that man. But the women here, this man's mother, Paulinus's mom, his older sister, Pepeye, his younger sister, Junior Pepeye, the three of them, these are women that in the 10 years that I've known these people, the countless hours that these people have spent pouring out their sorrows about the man that, quote unquote, the Pepeye's mom had married, about their brother, the things that they've said, sharing all these horror stories, just taking space. These people are constantly in my ear about the toxic behaviors from these two men. But rather than, what they want to do is to have a bonding fest about how the father, he behaved like this, he behaved like that. The son, he behaved like this, he behaved like that. Their anger, their rage, their abusive tendencies, the way they insult people, the way they physically harm people. They just want to have a campfire and just have us exchanging war stories about the abuse. But here is a chance for you guys to actually stand up and protect somebody. Like you said, they've known me for 10 years. Not one questionable thing can they say about me and my conduct in this marriage to this man, which is why they had to make up stories about me.
Right.
So the women here have been utterly disgusting, and I will continue to say it. For them to rally around these problematic men, knowing what they know. I mean, a marriage has ended, ended. I never said that I was going to keep the children away from them or whatever. Like, we could have moved forward in a healthy, productive manner that I didn't ever have to have anything to do with Paulinus again, but I had every intention of maintaining ties with his family. I just needed space. I just needed time. But their conduct in all of this has shown me that I can never relax around these people, and I can never expose myself to these people again. I need to keep my distance.
Yeah.
Because these people can kill me with everything that they're doing, with everything they've said about me, trying to take my children away from me. So, I mean, their conduct has been disgusting. And I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned how that was also just that's kind of what stood out to you too as well. Really. Because especially his younger sister, Junior Pepe, that has honestly been the most heartbreaking because we were very close. I really took her as a sister.
Yeah.
I really protected her in that house in times where she herself had been scapegoated a lot by her family. I really stood solidly behind her and tried to affirm her and showed her a lot of love. So it's been disappointing to see her almost kind of take a stand with her family and stab me in the back in the way she did.
Basically.
Knowing what she knows. I have not told one lie in my story. Everything I've said is true. So and nobody can tell me that, hey, it's his family. What was I expecting them to do? I'm sorry, but I've seen people have integrity. I've seen people know that, okay, a certain member of their family is problematic. And I've seen them take a stand against that individual. They don't have to love that individual any less. They don't have to even disown that individual or have nothing to do with that individual. But my goodness, they do not enable the bad behavior of that individual.
Exactly.
Where there's accountability to be had or to be taken, they take accountability. They apologize. We're sorry. This person has done this, and that, but we're sorry, we apologize. How can we rectify it? How can we move forward? What can we do to make sure you feel protected, to make sure things like this don't happen again? But what these people did was to rush to try and cover their shame, to try and cover the shame of the Polinos, right? And then to try and take me, the victim here, and try and paint me as the villain to the world.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And again, they've just shown their true colors. Like I said, they never saw you as one of them. They never cared about you. And they only saw you basically based on your utility and what you could provide to and for them, because the rush to completely discard and wipe their hands and act like you're lying, basically sweep it under the rug. This never happened. This didn't happen. It's just appalling. It's appalling.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, you know what? Because I think we can't really have this conversation without even fully understanding that as much as Paulinus is a downright disgusting degenerate in being an abuser, abusive individuals don't often just come out of the ether like that. They don't just exist in isolation. Often what creates an abuser, is a toxic family of origin.
Yeah.
And so on one hand, while I am utterly disappointed and just floored by his family's behavior, I understand it because their family unit is primed and it's created for such behavior to thrive and exist.
Yeah.
It's an abusive environment that is also very enabling of abusive behavior. And so when I look at his family, it explains why I could never relax in that space. My own personal encounters with their patriarch, which is Paulinus's dad, and his abusive and just really toxic behavior to members of his family, especially his wife. This abusive behavior from Paulinus is also a learned behavior. And so, this is not them say, personally witnessed this guy speak in such derogatory and just abusive ways to his wife, calling her names. I remember being so shocked. I think I don't even know what had happened, but the way he reacted to her, the things he said to her, disgusting.
Jeez.
And the way, and he didn't even realize that I was in the room. So that's even what shocked me the most, because when I'm there, it's usually the guy the man himself, the Paulinus's dad was so fond of me, the way he carried me, treated me like an egg, like this and that and that. So he didn't realize I was there. So when he came at his wife the way he did, and then he saw me, he quickly readjusted his behavior. But I'd already seen it, and I was very shocked because I've never seen that kind of thing before. Where how did he called her stupid and the way Nigerian men can with Yoruba, with everything, the way he shouted at her, I was shocked. So and Paulinus's mom was very embarrassed too because I was there.
Yeah.
So he finished and then he left. And I remember actually pausing and apologizing to her. And I was just like, I'm so sorry that this happened. I'm so sorry. Because, I mean, what else was like? I was sorry that I witnessed it. I was sorry that she experienced it. So I apologized to her. And what she said was, and she said it in Yoruba. She was just like, she was almost like, that's just how it is. And, thank you. Thank you. Oh, mommy, thank you for even saying sorry. That's just how he behaves. That's,
so it's normalized. It's accepted.
Of course, it is what it is. So my point is that, again, this feeds into my disappointment with the family. Firsthand, everything that I'm going through, exactly how it feels because you yourself experienced it.
You know what it's like.
Yeah. And that's why, for me, when I see women who uphold the patriarchy, they're the most dangerous people in the world. I fear women that love the patriarchy. I fear them.
Right.
Because it is them that will literally push you under that bus and kill you there. Because for them, they suffered and they're like, how dare you escape? How dare you not suffer just like I suffered? It's crazy. It's wild. And so I circle back again to just their family dynamic. Now, I know you more than any of my other siblings got to actually see their family dynamic play out because you had followed us one December to their home, to their house in Ikiti for Christmas. So can you just elaborate a little bit on just what you experienced or what you saw or just the things that stood out to you?
Yeah. So just the way I can sum it all up to say is that there was just an underlying tension, which is something that like you feel in the atmosphere. You can't necessarily vocalize or put words to it, but you can feel that when, a certain presence is around. And in my experience, that tension was always there once the patriarch was like around us in the same room.
You mean like Paulinus's dad,
yes,
right?
Paulinus's dad, yes.
It seemed like the whole family was just set up to like serving the man and whatever it is. Like nobody ever wanted to misstep around him because he just couldn't relax.
Basically, like my interpretation of that was that everybody was like walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
And as an observer, like as an outsider coming in, I'm just here as myself. I'm not aware of like that type of dynamic going on, but I could feel it. I could feel that energy in there, just walking on eggshells, just, and that makes me uneasy because I'm wondering what's going on? Why are we all tense?
Like what exactly is the issue? Like, and nothing even had to have happened, though. Just his very presence and everybody is just like,
tense, trying to cater to, like, I see his wife like running around just trying to put this here, put this there, just make sure everything is like as perfect as can be to whatever the standard is, just so as not to like upset him or whatever. And
and I think it's because one could just never tell what it was that will upset the man. And so everybody was just always on guard, trying to do this, trying to do that. But in the end, it never worked. There's no blessed day that I've ever been in the presence of this man that somebody has not gotten it hot. And oftentimes it is Paulinus's mom that is the full beneficiary of it, but his children, anybody just in the vicinity. And I also think, sometimes when I think about just wondering why Paulinus's mom especially is treated me the way that she did, is antagonizing me the way that she is right now. Sometimes I wonder, is it some feeling of just retribution? Because the only person that I know that had ever escaped the wrath of this man is myself.
Wow.
For some reason, the man just always used to I don't even know, just treat me like an egg. So it's interesting to me why he singled me out and decided to treat me in that manner, whereas no other person was safe. I don't know, because the flaming misogynists that I've come to understand them to be, maybe it's because I was there giving birth to boys to them. I don't know what it is.
That could be.
But, who knows what it is. But yeah, that feeling of eggshells, yeah, you definitely picked up on the vibe, because that's definitely what the vibe was. Yeah. And I think for me, the last thing I would like to explore as well is, because I remember one of the things you were talking about is like the image that Paulinus had crafted about himself to you, to the family. Can you kind of describe the image that he had crafted? And then you can then compare that against, some of these things that we're saying.
Yeah, his image is basically this down-to-earth guy next door. Like the way he talks to you, the way his banter conversationally, I have to give it to him that he's good. Like he would make you feel like as if you're he gives you what you want in a sense. I don't know how to explain it, but you would basically drop your guard around him, because he seems like, this polished kind of guy, but he's down to earth, he's funny, he's joking, all those, just has a bubbly personality, you know what I mean? That would make you think that that would just allow you to just kind of feel comfortable around him, basically. Is the sense that I got. So but of course, there'll be other times when the mask would slip, or there'll be these incidents that at least I witnessed where he would just I knew he had some kind of underlying temper or snap like that. But, just outwardly, if somebody didn't know you or you and your credibility and all of that, he doesn't have the outward behavior or appearance of what maybe you say an abuser would have, right?
So the more I've been researching and doing the work, because what it is that you're describing is his charisma. Oh my goodness, he has that charisma on lock. And I have to admit that is part of what drew me to him, his charisma.
Yeah.
Because I didn't necessarily see myself as a charismatic person. Right. So I enjoyed seeing how he navigated spaces, how he was able to draw people in and all of that. But the more that I do research, that charisma, unfortunately, it's actually a high indicator of people who are actually very abusive.
Wow.
Because they weaponize that charisma to get you to drop your guard down. And depending on what it is they want to use you for, they can extract, they can manipulate, especially if they're their partner or you're their spouse or even their child. You are never the beneficiary of their charisma. They save that charisma for outsiders.
Right.
And so honestly, for me, if I were to advise any women out there, that charisma, as much as we hear the opposite in that charisma is a good thing, or it seems like, the person has their act together, the research out there is actually fear the charisma. When you see extremely charismatic people, fear them, because it's actually an indicator of them being master manipulators.
Right.
It's not really coming from this, just this deep love for people and all that. No, it's actually more of a manipulation tactic. When someone is very charismatic, they just seem too good to be true. They just seem oh my God, who's this guy?
Yeah.
When they overwhelm you like that, it's often a manipulation tactic, and it's actually an indicator of someone who is abusive. And so it's funny you mentioned that he just had this charismatic image, and I got swept up in all of it, and it's something that I admired. But having now then been on the inside and see him face the world out that way, and then come in and have all this anger and vitriol and zero charisma. That's part of what sparks my confusion for the longest time, because I'm like, but why is he that way with other people and not that way with me? He was that way with me in the beginning, but over time, it seems that he doesn't have any love. You see, he seems to not have any love, nothing he doesn't seem to have the same energy that he has for other people with me. Of course, there are short bursts of times where he would, his good graces will shine on me. I mean, I have 3 children, for goodness sake. I say that all the time. Clearly, there must have been some good times.
Yeah.
But that's what happens. They keep you spinning in the anger, in the vitriol, in the rage, and then occasionally they throw in some good times there.
Breadcrumbs.
Exactly. So you're confused. You spend the bulk of your time confused. You internalize the behavior. You think, oh, I must be the problem.
Yeah.
Maybe if I work a little better, maybe if I do this, maybe if I do that. And they tell you, they put you on this rat race of constantly trying to appease them, constantly trying to do whatever it is that they say, if you do it, I'll be happy with you. But then you do it and then they're still not happy with you. Either way, you just keep spinning. Your head is spinning. And if you don't know what is happening to you, you'll be stuck there for decades, for your entire lifetime, constantly. Because when you grow up being some sort of people pleaser, making other people happy, when you become so addicted to that, then you are stuck there for life. And so for me, I constantly give glory to God that this guy at least did not even get 10 years from me. He did not get 10. Like, I was just shy of that 10 years. And for me, it's symbolic. I give glory to God. Because when I'm on all these support groups, when I see the comments, I hear people saying they spent 20 years, 30 years, some of them in their 70s, and they are just now leaving these men. I'm like, God, I thank you, because, oh boy, yeah. So, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because that's a good perspective to actually add here and for our listeners to also hear. Lulu, when we were talking about just even how things started to make sense, some of the things that you had observed that at the time when they happened, you didn't quite know how to make of them because you didn't really have the context. Like, you just didn't know how to understand some of the toxicity that you witnessed. There's a particular incident that I know I've spoken about on the podcast, which is, the reckless behavior, the dangerous driving as a means to just kind of intimidate and, punish me in anger. I know you've witnessed one incident as such, except at the time when it happened, you didn't quite know that that's what was happening.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about what it is that you remember?
Yeah. What I remember is at this time, this was probably 2018. It was just one child at this point.
2018, we had...
early 2018, February.
Okay, yes. Okay, yeah.
Early February 2018, I had come to you guys' home for a sleepover on the weekend. Mm-hmm. And on Sunday morning, we were all driving to church with your nanny at the time. And so it was while we were driving on the way to church on the highway, I just kind of remember him speeding. He was driving and you were in the front passenger seat. And I think I remember you having cautioned him, hey, you're driving too fast, slow down. It's making you uncomfortable. Basically, you had protested along those lines to his driving, right? Mm-hmm. But he wouldn't stop. He would continue speeding up and swerving recklessly. And I just remember again, not understanding why he wasn't stopping when you had told him multiple times this is uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But I just also remember a look that he gave you in that moment while he was driving and speeding, and he just kind of turned his face to face you. And I just remember him giggling or cackling in some sort of way. But I was just this is weird. She's telling you to stop. There's other lives in this car. And I just remember witnessing in that moment before he finally did, he just kind of turned to face you and giggle. It was basically taunting.
Yeah.
Is what I would describe it as. And then he finally slowed down and continued driving normally. But in that moment, again, it happened. I had no context to it. Just another incident of, another of his weird behaviors. Mm-hmm. But then when you finally came out with everything and told us what was going on, in my mind, as you said, like another piece of the puzzle, light bulb moment. So it's like, so what I saw him like looking at you and taunting you was he was actually doing that, basically. You know?
Yeah.
It was part of his tactics to like rile you up and stuff.
Yeah, like it's crazy because again, I even forgot that you were a witness to you know, that kind of behavior. It wasn't until I sent out my email detailing the physical abuse, the sexual abuse, the financial abuse, the just recklessness, the bullying, the driving dangerously. I guess it was on the back of you seeing that email that, you know, some of these little bits that didn't make sense before finally made sense, because here you were actually a witness to this like dangerous driving behavior, which unbeknownst to you, the guy was upset with me about something that probably happened in the house before we left. And that's why he was behaving that way. He was trying to intimidate me or get a rise out of me or whatever. Yeah. Which again, it just speaks like, even if you're even trying to even get at me, which is reprehensible, I'm not the only one in the car. Exactly. We have our child, and that is just what always scared me about this man and his anger and his reckless behavior and his just vindictiveness. It's like he didn't care who he hurt just to get to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so if something had happened now, we got into an accident, like how many lives would have been impacted just because he was angry and upset and all of that? But you know, the cackling that he did not is because you were probably in the car. If you weren't in the car, he had my nanny was already used to his rages and his shouting. So he would have probably just shut me down right there. My family shut up, like, don't talk to me, or even just purely ignored me. Yeah. But because you were there, he tried to mask his disdain. He tried to mask his vile act, his actual joke. As a joke. So he did that cackling thing. But these abusers, they don't understand that, especially when you're someone that is perceptive. You can see right through it. So for you, you saw right through, like, what has cackling got to do with the fact that right now you are actually speeding and someone has told you to slow down? You can't cackle, you can't laugh your way to cover how reprehensible your behavior actually is. So I guess, yeah, it's definitely instances like this that I'm glad that as much as I know I'm a credible person, I know I'm honest, lying doesn't come natural to me. It is always more convenient for me to speak the truth, which is how I've lived my life for literally my entire life. I tell the truth. I'm honest. I'm not a liar. So it wasn't even difficult for me to even tell people and let people know that, hey, this is what I experienced. But I was just even all the more grateful that I had witnesses, in a sense. I had other people that had also seen certain things and could also add to the credibility that I was already bringing to the table. Yeah. In like my younger sister here who was there, and, you know, she was able to say, it's true, I did witness something like that. We're just going to speak about just give further details into what we were talking about earlier when we were saying there was just this underlying tension in this Polynosis family, where it seemed that like nobody could actually just relax. It seemed like everybody was on eggshells, was walking on eggshells. Like, what exactly? Because I know that there was an incident that happened that you're very familiar with. Can you like break that down for me?
Yes. So this was December of 2017 when I had come back to spend Christmas with you and his family in their hometown in Ekiti. One of the days we had gone out, he was driving. We were on the way back to their home, and somehow we pretty much got into an almost car accident with a bus, basically. And it was just like he had swerved and like we had avoided it or something. But, you know, but somehow I think did the car get hit, the front of the car that we were driving? I'm not sure what that slammed into or what that got hit, but nobody was hurt or harmed. But the takeaway from that was just the behavior once we had gotten back home and had assessed the damage to the car. I just remember everybody on their family, him, his sisters, their mom, just basically now being tense and worried because now there was actual damage to one of their vehicles. And the worry was around their father, the patriarch, finding out. So the compound was pretty big, their home. So I remember, I think like the car was driven to the back somewhere.
Like they went to go and
out
hide
of
the
sight,
car.
basically. Yeah, the car was basically kept out of sight until it could have been fixed the following day or something of that sort. But I just remember like noting down like the fact that it had to be covered up. Till this day, I'm not even sure if the man even knew that ever happened, because it was a cover up basically.
Yeah, they covered up. I think they had to carry the car even out of state to some mechanic to go and fix and all of that. And I just remember the panic and the pandemonium. But in my head, I'm just like, is it like, are we not supposed to be giving glory to God that nothing, that could have been a catastrophic accident?
Exactly, yeah.
You know, the focus to me was on the wrong thing. It was on the car. And oh my God, this car. And I'm just like, there were how many people in this car? Like,
we all survived. Like,
yeah, like it was definitely a misplaced focus, in my opinion. And I think for you, like what was your feeling just about everything? Because you were also actually in the accident too.
Yeah, I was in the car. It was just, I didn't understand the reaction of trying to cover it up, basically. I just thought that, like, again, we are focused on the wrong thing here. Like, the rest of the atmosphere for that day was kind of just like sober. I think everybody just went to their rooms, nothing else until it was time for dinner. It was basically the day was done.
Yeah.
Basically, it was just a sober and a tense mood until the whole thing could have been resolved. But I remember thinking, this is ridiculous, because I don't understand why we're hiding this, basically. But I just chalked it up to, it's their home. This is their way of doing things. So.
I guess this is the culture in their own family.
Basically.
Yeah. So I guess that, again, it speaks to just the nature. I mean, it's unfortunate. Yes, fine. I mean, nobody wants to get into an accident. I mean, it's inconvenient to have to be fixing a car and all of that. But at the end of the day, let's just be thanking God that, you know, the people that were in the car are okay, they're fine, and let's just keep it pushing. I also, because I wasn't even there, but I just remember walking into the situation and I was very confused as to why everybody was focused on the car and not the fact that the well-being of the people that were actually in the car. And then also the cover up. What exactly is the big deal? Okay, we got into an accident. Okay, and like we'll fix the car and all of that. But there was just this massive cover up. And like you said, so even me too, I can't confirm if the man ever figured it out that his car actually got into an accident, because I know they hit the car, then they traveled out of state early in the morning or something to go and fix the car. I think they paid a hefty sum for the mechanic to rush to fix the car, to panel beats, to do. So
yeah,
there was all of that. And like you said, the day was done. Like everybody just face your front kind of thing. Like party is over. We're done for the day.
Yeah.
So that's just what it was. But yeah, so thank you again. I appreciate you actually bringing to light again some of what it is that you know about the family I was married into, the people that, you know, I'd spent almost a decade with. And, you know, you can for sure help to paint a better picture for people listening on here, some of the things that I'm talking about. So yeah, thank you.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So, I mean, I think I've kind of covered all the bases. Lulu, I don't know if there's anything at all that you feel like maybe you do want to say, kind of add here, or you could just give some final last words if you want.
I mean, you know, I think we covered everything in terms of like my perspective and the lens that I could bring. What I want to, like, I guess a message put out there just for anybody else who maybe might not be in this situation, but you think that somebody close to you is just speak up, honestly. Just say it, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Just say whatever it is that like you recognize to be a red flag or that makes you uncomfortable, whether you have no context or not. Just alert it, bring it to the person's attention, really. Because I mean, whether or not like that we may have changed anything or not, but I do think about like the things that like maybe I witnessed, but I just didn't delve into. And for me, that's like where I was in my own journey as well, right? But like, just sometimes I think, damn, if I had just said something, sooner, how much could we have avoided down the line? But, everything happens for a reason, and divine timing and all of that. But anybody out there, if you witness anything, a red flag, just vocalize it. You don't even know if you're going to be saving somebody's life. But
yeah, you know what? Thank you, Lulu, for actually saying that, because let me just assure you, and don't even beat yourself up about it, because there's nothing anybody could have said to me that would have stopped me from marrying this guy, from spending the years that I spent with this guy. Because for goodness sake, God himself sent pigeons, sent signs. This man choked me out himself, strangled me.
Yeah.
He strangled me to the point where I thought I was going to die. A couple weeks to our wedding, and I still married him. There's nothing anybody could have said to me, so don't even beat yourself up about it. But I will nonetheless still tell people out there, always speak up, always say something, because nobody ever really said something to me. But the few times that I think a couple people had said something, or something that, hey, maybe he said this, or maybe he did this, or are you sure this and that?
Yeah.
I remembered all those people. I remember all those people that ever did say something to me. Whether it was enough to cause me to change my decision, whether it was enough to cause me to end the relationship, is irrelevant. But all those things that people said in all those years gathered together and gave momentum, so that by the time I finally understood the web I was in, by the time I finally understood the abuse I had been enduring, by the time the scales fell from my eyes, everything gathered together, and it gave momentum for me to say, enough is enough. It ends today. It ends now. And so I would definitely agree with my sister. And that's also something that I do now as a warrior, as a survivor. Because now I'm very attuned to the language of abuse.
Yeah.
So when I notice anything moving any kind of way, whether amongst my friends, even strangers, because an incident happened on the beach sometime, but that one is irrelevant here. I walk up to people and I tell them, I'm like, hey, this is what I observed. Now, it's up to them to do what they want with it. But as someone that has been through this thing, I remember all the people that ever did speak up to me. And I thank them today that they did. Even though I didn't make a move then, it was critical to the move that I eventually made when I had to escape and, save my life and save my children. My discernment about what I am facing has made me a target, but I must nonetheless speak up. Make no mistake, this is still a live and ongoing issue, and myself, my children, and loved ones continue to be in danger as a result of my coming forward with the truth. I want it on record that should any calamity befall any one of us, my abuser and his threatening family should be the first people held as persons of interest.
Authenticity Warrior is available everywhere you listen to podcasts and is at Authenticity Warrior across all social media platforms. Please feel free to like and share this podcast. Thanks for listening.